Alright folks, big idea at the end of the video.
Talk about polygons. Polygons are shapes that are closed and with straight sides. For example, this could be a polygon. This right here is a triangle. You can see it has straight sides and it is closed. On the other hand, could this be a polygon? This right here is a circle. A circle is not a polygon. It has curved sides, not straight sides, so it is not a polygon. What about this? Could this be a polygon? No, it is not closed, and that is the triangle. First of all, a triangle has three sides, right? So let's call this side A, let's call this side B, and let's call this side C. A triangle also has three vertices. What's vertices? Well, it's one of these little corners over here where two of the line segments meet. That's a vertex, okay? So here's a vertex, here's a vertex, here's a vertex. I can give these vertices names. For example, let's call this A, let's call this one C, and let's call this one B. Well, then I can refer to this triangle as triangle A, B, C. Now, a triangle, you already know, has three sides, but it also has three angles, right? One angle here, and one angle here. And all of these angles add up to a total of 180 degrees, folks. And that's all you need to know for a triangle. A square. So here we have a square. You can also call it a quadrilateral. Anything that has four sides is a quadrilateral. So, a square has four vertices. Vertices are where line segments meet. So here's one vertex, let's call it A. Here's our second vertex, let's call it B. Here's our third one, let's call this one C. And here's our last one, let's call that D. Of course, we can give each of the side lengths of the square a name, but of course, a square has equal side lengths. So we might as well call this one S, so all of the side lengths will be S. Now, remember that a square has four angles, right? It has four sides, so it also has four angles. Now, if it has four angles, what's the total degree measure of a square? Well, it's simply going to be two triangles, right? 2 times 180 degrees is going to give us a total angle measure of 360 degrees for this square. So, just to recap, a square has four sides, equal length, it has four angles that add up to 360, and it has four vertices. We looked at a triangle, three sides, square, four sides. Next one up is a pentagon, and you can guess how many sides that one has. That has 5 sides. So here you go, this right here is a pentagon. Let's talk a little bit about the pentagon. 5 vertices. Vertices are where two line segments meet. Here's one vertex, let's call it A. Here's another one, let's call it B. Here's another one, let's call it C. Here's another one, let's call it D. And here's the last one, let's call it E. If this is a regular pentagon, all of the sides will be equal in length. Let's talk about the angles. It has 5 vertices and 5 angles as well. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, here's 5. So what's the total degree measure of a pentagon? Well, to answer that question, we can simply break up the pentagon into triangles. Remember that one triangle has 180 degrees. So if we break up this pentagon into some triangles, we can see how many degrees it has. Notice that this pentagon has 3 triangles. So it will have 180, 180, 180 for a total of 540 degrees in the pentagon, since we're doing 180 times 3. That's the total degree measure inside a pentagon, and a pentagon has 5 vertices, 5 sides, and that's all you need to know for a pentagon. Look at triangle, 3 sides, square, 4 sides, pentagon, 5 sides. Now, next up is a hexagon. Let's look at the hexagon. So, I'm sure you can guess how many sides the hexagon has. It has 6 sides. So that's what I'm drawing right here. You can count it up and you'll notice it has exactly 6 sides. So let's see how many angles we have in this hexagon. We have 1 angle here, 2 angles, 3 angles, 4 angles, 5 angles, 6 angles. So 6 angles, 6 vertices, and let's point out those vertices. Here's one, let's call it A. Here's another one, let's call it B. Here's another one, let's call it C. Here's another one, let's call it D. Here's another one, let's call it E. Here's another one, let's call it F. Now, let's talk about the degree measure of our hexagon. How many degrees in a hexagon? Well, to answer that question, we're going to chop it up into some triangles. So chop it up as such, right? We've got some triangles. How many triangles do you have here? Well, you have one triangle, that's 180. Another triangle, that's 180. Another triangle, that's 180. And another triangle, that's 180. Well, so how many degrees inside the hexagon? Well, that's going to be 180 times 4. So we're going to go ahead and do this multiplication to find out how many degrees in this hexagon. So let's do it. 4 times 0, 0. 4 times 8, that's going to give us 32, and that's going to give us 720 degrees for the total degree measure of a hexagon. 6 sides, 6 vertices, 6 angles, and 720 degrees. Next polygon in the polygon family, we covered 3 sides, triangle, 4 sides, square, 5 sides, pentagon, 6 sides, hexagon. Next up, we're going to skip the octagon, look at the octagon. The octagon has 8 sides. That's why we call it the octagon, right? So let's take a look at how we can draw this octagon. So count up the sides and you're going to notice there's exactly 8 sides. Now I want you to guess how many angles and how many vertices there are in this octagon. Let's go ahead and count it up. Let's count up how many vertices there are. Remember, a vertex is formed by 2 line segments meeting together. Here's one vertex, let's call it A. Here's another vertex, let's call it B. Here's another one, let's call it C. Another one, let's call it D. Another one, let's call it E. Another octagon, let's call that H. How many angles do we have here? We have 1 angle, 2 angle, 4 angle, 4 angle, 5 angle, 6 angle, 7 angle, 8 angles as expected. What's the total degree measure of this octagon? Well, let's chop it up into some triangles and figure it out. So let's chop it up. So let's see, I've got one triangle here, another triangle here, another triangle here, another triangle here, and my final triangle here. How many triangles in total? Let's count it up. So we've got one triangle here. That's going to be 180 degrees. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 180 degree triangles. So what's the total degree measure inside an octagon? It's going to be 180 times 6. So let's do the math. 6 times 0, 0. 6 times 8, 48. 6 times 1, 6 plus the 4, that's 10, 1080 degrees inside an octagon. So an octagon has 8 sides, 8 vertices, 8 angles, and 1080 degrees.
Alright folks, here's the big idea you've been waiting for. So the big idea asks us to fill in the properties table. Okay, so we've got all the polygons we want. The triangle, the square, the pentagon, the hexagon, the octagon, and we get a few properties for each of them. We got the number of sides, the number of angles, number of vertices, and the total angle measure. So go ahead, try to fill in this table, and good luck.